Buongiorno, I am a JAZZA and welcome to my studio. And that's the last time I'll attempt an Italian accent in this video, but I will be attempting to build Leonardo da Vinci's unmade invention. But after all of our research, all the ones I want to build are friggin' huge, so we're going to be scaling them down a little bit. Specifically to a tabletop miniature scale where these characters are, let's say, just under 6 foot tall. So using them as a reference, I mark a stick with various increments of 6 feet, which I'll be using throughout the video as a bit of a measurement guide because a lot of Da Vinci's inventions had measurements listed with them. Starting off with his famous parachute. The strange pyramid-shaped canvas-adorned parachute with wooden beams for framing, which he describes as being about 12 braccia, which is 23 feet across and in depth. So that gives us a pretty clear measurement guide to start off our frame. This is obviously the simplest design to start off with and a good one to warm up on. Once I've got the skewers in place for the vertical part of the frame, I move on to using the structure as a bit of a template that I can trace around to cut a piece of canvas that will wrap around the whole thing and then set about gluing it in place. Lastly, with the canvas wrapped, it's time to add the stitching to the bottom. Technically, it's all adhered, but I want it to look like the design that Da Vinci made, which includes how the fabric is sewn together at the base. After which, I'll be using twine to create the ropes that will dangle down and suspend a person from it. So here it is, my Da Vinci parachute, which at tabletop scale is lovely hat. Let's move on to war machines. You see, when Leonardo da Vinci entered the service of the Duke of Milan, he pitched himself as an engineer of all things including weaponry, and designed a whole bunch of things that could be used in warfare. None of them were ever really made, but today, at long last, we're going to bring them to life. Just a little. Gradually stepping up in complexity, we're moving up to the 33-barreled organ gun. This is a cannon comprised of 3 flat sides on which 11 cannons are mounted and attached to wheels on either side so that it can be rotated 11 shot all at once, and as it rotates, the next row be loaded while the other cools. And here it is, my little wheelie cannon, which you'd have a couple of people here pushing it along. Fire! Shoots off 11, rotate it, pack and prepare another load of 11 and shoot off your next round of cannons. Pretty cool idea. Now that's enough for our simple start. Let's move on to the big guns, literally. Next up, the Renaissance tank. An armored car described as a prototype for modern tanks. His design includes a conical cover inspired by a turtle shell, and the machine is meant to carry between 4 to 8 full-grown men to be able to operate it internally. Using that as measurement, I roughly size it up to about 4 people because it's a 2-story machine, so there'll be people on an upper level. And with that as my rough platform size, I make the job easier on myself and duck again to the laser cutter to cut some of these round things. I'm building most of these machines out of simple balsa wood and toothpicks and all that stuff, but for a lot of the rounded areas and details like wheels and large curved edges, it's a lot simpler for me to cheat and use the laser cutter. And with those used as the foundation for my structure, I move about cutting popsicle sticks to size, supporting my frame at the right height, and building out the outer shell. Then it's on to the undershell, very similar process here, which will eventually be attached to with the wheels, and now we're going to move on to the more interesting part, the aggressive part of this design, the 24 cannons laid out all the way around the circumference of the vehicle. I just use paper straws for this, painting the inside of the barrels in a black and then the outside in a silver paint. Finally, when my cannons are ready to attach, I use this circular laser cut rail on 2 levels, which I create a sandwich of these cannons in between. And then moving on to finalizing the upper level, I cut out a circle of the middle of the top and create a bit of a division, a gap, so that people operating the top story of the cannon can look out at their opponents on the battlefield. Now, a lot of you might have seen this design before, but it's really wild to think how revolutionary this idea was. But what I didn't fathom is how big it is. You can literally fit 8 people of this scale in here who can operate this on the battlefield. And actually having these people for scale really gives you a sense of how foreboding this would be to come across in a battle. Our next one is another war machine, and it's a giant crossbow. When I say giant crossbow, 72 feet long, 22 meters, 24 or 80 feet wide, 6 giant wheels, operated again by like 8 people. Yeah, this is even bigger. Now again, this one is going to be constructed with a combination of balsa wood and simple craft sticks, dowels and matchsticks that I have, but also with a little bit of help from the laser cutter. Again, creating some of these bow-like shapes and structures, the wheels and all that, it just makes it much simpler for me and creates a much more satisfying end result to use a combination of the two. This has been so satisfying to just spend days in these imaginary ideas and inventions of Leonardo da Vinci. And when I work on videos, especially for any length of time like I have here, I really like to immerse myself in listening to things relevant to what I'm doing. Sometimes it's a soundtrack. In this case, I've been listening to a biography that goes quite in depth into the life and approach and personality of Leonardo da Vinci. And it's just been so inspiring to hear about his whole journey, hear about his approach to everything and the way he tackled his projects and was just driven by inspiration and curiosity. Now, on a personal note, and I haven't mentioned this on this channel yet, but a couple of weeks ago I was diagnosed with ADHD. There's probably a lot of people who've been watching this channel for a while who were not surprised at all, but it's been so interesting in listening to this biography of Leonardo da Vinci to hear of the certainty of which people believe he had ADHD, and it makes complete sense. With the incessance at which he just wandered off onto different topics or became obsessed with certain avenues, whether it was relevant to his current project or not. And even though there's a lot left unfinished and a lot of inventions like this that were never made, the fact that he imagined them up so freely and allowed himself to explore these impulses, be creative in the way he needed to be creative, is such an amazing example of how you don't need to fit into a mold. You can just be creative in your own way. And whether that has a huge legacy or not, I have the feeling that Leonardo da Vinci was happy in his exploration of science, art, and imagination. And as someone who personally gets lost in all sorts of impulses and projects, and whether I hyper-focus or completely struggle to focus. I mean, honestly, even when I started filming this video, it took me 3 hours to begin. But once I started, the ball was rolling and I got to nestle into it. Now, I'm not trying to draw parallels between me and Leonardo da Vinci. All I'm saying is there's stuff about his life and approach that I find really relatable and inspirational, and that I think can ring true and helpful and inspirational to a lot of artists today. Oh my God, look at this. This at miniature scale, pretty much the size of a crossbow. But given the context that that's the size of people, it all of a sudden hits a little bit different. I even put these little bars here so that 4 people can push it on either end, and there's a platform up here. These cranks can be turned to wind back the string that will shoot out this bolt. I guess this is a castle destroyer, this one. The scale of this giant crossbow machine is unfathomable. But for my own satisfaction, I want to make another kind of giant crossbow. Specifically, the giant crossbow that unfolds and mounts on a stand that's wielded by this character from our Lucivera series. This is Leone, the engineer combatant. And making this giant crossbow, which unfolds like an easel on the battlefield, is going to be a little bit more fiddly than the big one because it's much smaller. But at the scale of our miniature here, as you can see, still pretty huge, about the size of an actual machine gun, but a little more realistic and buildable than the giant one of Leonardo's design. Now, I know I'm veering from the track here, and so far this video has been all about Da Vinci's inventions, but I am creating this for our Lucivera campaign, which is our miniature tabletop campaign thoroughly inspired by Da Vinci's inventions. In fact, the whole world is sort of imagined in a world in which all of these sorts of inventions that Da Vinci made are real, they function, and the nation of Lucivera uses them to thrive. And their innovations, from flying machines to portable giant crossbows like this, are all part of the exciting fantasy adventure we're building in a Renaissance Da Vinci punk style world. If you love the larger than life vibe of Da Vinci's Inventions, you're gonna love Lucha Vera. It's basically a live audio drama that we run every week in a role-play setting, kind of like D&D. It's my favorite time of the week. I love our Tuesday night sessions and we release an episode every week. I'll link to it in the description. Check out Lucha Vera, it's a lot of fun. And I'm learning a lot about myself in doing it, such as the fact that I can crack an apple in half.
I can hear apple tearing now.
I didn't know that about myself until last Tuesday. Amy found these at a local shop. The Da Vinci series invention kits with a whole bunch of Da Vinci's inventions that you can see functioning, which just seems like a lot of fun. So this is diverging from the scratch build stuff, but it just seems really fun and I wanted to give it a crack. Starting off with Da Vinci's aerial screw, the forerunner to a modern helicopter. Structurally, it's unable to fly, but it stimulated the curiosity of possible vertical flight. Alright, I can see why it doesn't fly. Maybe the design needs to be modified, but let's face it, a lot of these inventions were much more just whimsical ideas. Then there's the mechanical paddle boat, a motorboat before motorboats were even invented. And who doesn't love a good motorboat? Then the spring guard, a retractable cannon designed by Leonardo da Vinci. Whoa, this is fun. I'm literally just making and playing with toys in this video. They're only toys because they're small. But when you imagine how big and imposing they would have been, yeah, it's pretty cool. But I saved the coolest thing for last. The thing that I have always been most in love with out of all of his designs, and that is the flying machine. Now, even to this day, no one has ever created a machine that can be mounted by a single person that can fly. But with that said, this idea is so cool and fun visually. I want to spend a future video trying to make one of his human-powered flying machines for myself. That's obviously too much for this video, but perhaps it will suffice by transforming this into a more practical, miniature scale flight suit that can happily dwell among our other creations. With a miniature mounted inside and with a bit of chopping and reshaping, I repurposed this little Da Vinci flying machine invention into something a little more dramatic and suited among the other inventions built to scale in this video. So let's bring it all together. All of these inventions that we've either made or built, presented at a scale of which they would have been experienced if they were made. On the one hand, I'm extremely happy with the results, but on the other, I have to apologize. I lied at the start of this video. I am going to do an Italian accent again. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for watching this video and coming along this adventure with me. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this adventure and subscribe for more fun and adventures in all sorts of worlds of creativity. Leave your comments down below as to which Da Vinci invention is your favorite, and of course, please go check out Lucha Vera, the tabletop role-playing adventure in this world of grand invention. I cannot contain my excitement if you could not tell. That is why the Italian accent has come back, and I think I do a pretty good job at it. Let me know in the comments. Please don't unsubscribe. Otherwise, that is it for now. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.